Hello, everyone, and welcome to Necromancer's Players News. I mean, Guild Wars Players News, where this is the podcast where we take a look at Guild Wars game series news and talk about content on our site, Guild Wars Players. I'm Sithrith, and today we have Draculetta.
Don't fear the Reaper. I said it first.
Sure. And we have Thelros.
Undead reference.
Good one. Good one. So you might be able to tell that today we got the Necromancer Elite specialization revealed. It is called the Reaper. And we knew before it was going to be using the Greatsword, and it did not disappoint. I am super excited about this. It looks super awesome. Basically, Necromancers can trait as the Reaper and get to use a Greatsword. And this changes a couple things for the Necromancer. First of all, and most importantly, it changes your Death Shroud. So, if you played Necromancer, Death Shroud is a very key part of the class, and it's like the one really unique class mechanic that the profession has. Well, if you are a Reaper, instead you get Reaper's Shroud, and this changes your Death Shroud skills to, obviously, Reaper Shroud skills, but currently Death Shroud skills are all ranged-based. However, Reaper's Shroud are all melee-based, which makes sense because Greatsword, and basically they're kind of billing this as a slow melee brawler who is at home in battle when surrounded by as many enemies as possible, cleaving through hapless foes for life force sustainment. So I'm super excited about this, and basically all the traits that would normally go towards boosting your Death Shroud would go to boosting Reaper's Shroud because it acts the same way mostly. You get some pretty cool skills. One skill they talk about for Reaper's Shroud is Death's Charge, where you spin your scythe and dash forward a moderate distance, damaging foes in your path. When the dash ends, release an explosive poison cloud. So this is kind of like some of the Warrior or Guardian Greatsword skills where you spin around. Similar kind of thing, but obviously with a, little Necromancer twist. And another thing about this specialization is it relies and focuses heavily on chill. So a lot of the skills that Reapers use give chill, and some of the minor traits kind of boost chill. So for example, one of the minor traits, whenever you fear an opponent, you also inflict chill, because obviously you're a melee fighter now, you don't want enemies to run away too far. You want them to run away so that they can't fight you, but then you also still want to hit them. That's probably part of your goal. Another trait is Cold Shoulder, and this makes chill last longer, and chilled foes deal less damage to you. So there's a lot of chill going on here. And then, of course, the utility skills that Reapers get are all shouts. This was kind of speculated. People figured that Necromancers were going to get shouts, but these shouts are slightly different. A lot of people thought we were going to get shouts that would provide more group support. However, these are more damage-dealing shouts. So there's I don't know how many. There's utility skills, and they can hit up to 5 enemies, and they scale in effectiveness based on how many foes are hit. So that's pretty cool. So if you only hit 1 or 2 enemies, it's not going to do as much damage as it would if it hit 5. One of the shouts that we'll get is called Rise, and it strikes up to 5 foes in a large radius, dealing a small amount of damage and summoning a Jagged Horror, which is one of the minions for each foe struck. And again, it scales up the damage based on how many foes you attack. One of the execution skills that we'll be getting is called Gravedigger, and this sounds pretty awesome. You draw upon dark energy to deliver a slow but devastating blow to all the foes around them. If any foes struck by this skill are below 50% health, the skill's recharge time is dramatically reduced. So basically, with the Reaper, a lot of the attacks are very slow. However, whenever you hit something that's below 50% health, recharge time is reduced, and it seems like another theme is dealing more damage to more foes scales up the damage. So this is a very DPS heavy build, very tanky, because obviously Necromancers can be very tanky, and the slow attacks kind of match along with the tankiness. So you're going to be doing a lot of damage, but it's going to be slow. So it's going to be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to the Points of Interest live stream that's going to come out tomorrow at noon Pacific time, where they're going to be showing some of the gameplay for the Reaper. But the little teaser trailer that they did for the Reaper, it was really cool, and it gave me chills. No pun intended, but kind of also intended, because chills are a thing.
Absolutely
But,
intended.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, that is the Reaper. I know, Drac, you played Necromancer. What are your thoughts on the whole Reaper thing?
Can we talk about how cool it's going to be to have a giant shadowy scythe that you swing
Yes,
around?
I forgot to mention that.
That
Yes,
is just amazing.
when you enter Reaper's Shroud, so you know when you enter Death Shroud currently, you don't like your weapon kind of goes away and you kind of just throw like shadow balls or whatever at your enemy. However, when you enter Reaper's Shroud as a Reaper, your weapon is replaced by a giant shadow scythe, and that's what you use to attack. And it looks so cool.
Yeah, it does. It does. It looks freaking amazing.
Seriously, like the whole Reaper's Shroud, if you look at our post on the site about it, one of the images is of a Necromancer in Reaper's Shroud, and it looks so cool. So cool.
Yeah, I am super psyched about this. This is going to be amazing, I think, to play.
I am super pumped. So yeah, that's pretty much all the news we got this week, which is okay, because I love Necromancers. So Drac, what's going on in the gem store this week?
Well, speaking of great swords, you can get Belinda's great sword in the gem store for 600 gems. And it's an alright looking sword, I guess. I mean, it's nothing
it's a katana. It's kind of cool looking.
Yeah,
It's all
nothing spectacular really, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Also in the store is the Rox's Quiver, which is also 600 gems.
That's pretty nice.
And yeah, I'm kind of maybe thinking about getting this for my ranger.
The only downside is that you can't dye it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm on the fence about getting it, because I wish you could dye it, and then when I found out that it's not dyeable, I was like, maybe not.
Yeah.
But it is a nice looking cosmetic though. And then also, finally, in the gem store, we have the Metallurgic Die Kit. And it contains one random die from a pool of 25 different colors that includes 6 new exclusive colors.
I don't think it's worth it. I wouldn't recommend it. Having a chance at only like 1 out of those 6, and there's 25 dies possible you could draw from. It's not a good
Yeah, that's
ratio.
not good odds at all. But you can pick that up for 125 gems per one. You can get 5 of them for 500 gems, or you can get 25 of them for 2,500 gems. And that is pretty much it for the gem store this week.
Cool. Thanks, Drac. So we will move on to news from our site, which again, there's not a whole lot going on. But I did post my own article this week. It is called "Are Necromancers Really So Good?" So you can see why I started the show off the way I did. We are going to be talking about Necromancers a lot today. So I posted this article called "Are Necromancers Really So Good?" And basically, this is kind of the culmination of me reading a lot of hate about Necromancers, both in-game in like the PvP lobby map chat, in articles, various articles across the web, the Guild Wars 2 subreddit. Lots of people saying that Necromancers are broken, Necromancers are suboptimal, all this stuff. And obviously, at this stage, I love my Necromancer. I love my Necromancer. I love playing my Necromancer. I love everything about my Necromancer. I can survive so well on my Necromancer. The build I have, like everything just about it just clicks so well, and I can play it really well. So I always kind of just get a little disgruntled whenever I see people saying that it's broken, because like obviously it's not that broken if I can play it pretty well. So I wrote up this whole big long post, and basically the title is referencing a 10 Hammer article that went up last week called "Are Necromancers Really So Bad?" So that's why it's called that. And in that article, Lewis Burnell was talking about how broken and terrible Necromancers are. And then I go on to disagree. Basically, there's a couple phrases that I see get tossed around a lot about Necromancers. First of all, saying Necromancers are suboptimal, and also that there are only 2 viable Necromancer builds. And this kind of ties into the idea of the meta. And if you don't know what that is, the meta is basically this kind of agreed upon community idea of what the most efficient traits and weapons and utility skills to use for given professions are. Some professions are deemed to be outside of the meta, which means that they aren't efficient enough at PvE or PvP or whichever meta it is that you're talking about. Basically, these are very, very top tier players that are interested in using the meta to do speed runs of dungeons and do very, very competitive PvP type stuff. Obviously, the rest of the community also looks to the meta to, try and make themselves more efficient as well. However, I do not like the meta. I think it is silly, because I think that it stifles individual creativity and diversity, like trying out different builds and stuff, and it puts to waste a whole lot of carefully put together game design. And I also think that it encourages elitism, because you see a lot like, if you don't have a meta build, don't bother joining this looking for dungeon group, or if you don't have a meta build, then you're obviously worthless at PvP and all this stuff. But I mean, I do quite well at PvP actually, and I do not use a meta build on any of the characters that I PvP with. So there's that. So then, the whole 2 viable builds thing, in the article, I posted what my build is, and obviously, I do pretty well. I PvP a lot. I do pretty well. So, and then, of course, I go into that I do acknowledge that improvements could be made to the class, but in summation, I feel like the funness of playing a class is way more important than whether it's efficient or not. Like, if you're having a super fun time playing a Necromancer, that's kind of all that should really matter. Like, if you're not being super efficient, then okay. But here's the thing, like, if you take the time to go through your traits and practice playing a class, you can become super efficient. You can make it work for you. Will you be the top 5% of all players? Maybe not. But you'll be pretty damn good. So, Necromancers are awesome. The end. Drek. What's up with Sounds of Tyria this week?
Sounds of Tyria. We are still, of course, as I said last week, we are still looking at Eye of the North. Mm-hmm. And this week I chose, hold on one second, for some reason my computer just froze up and I don't remember which song I chose. Bad me. It was Overture is the song that I chose this week. Sorry about that. This one kind of starts out with trumpets. Lots and lots of trumpets.
Indeed.
It's very bombastic at the beginning of the song, and then it kind of flows into a hint of the original Guild Wars theme. If you listen closely during the song, you can hear Jeremy Soule kind of weaves the original Guild Wars theme in and out of it. Mm-hmm. And this is another one of those songs where I say you hear it and you just automatically say this is a Guild Wars song. Because for some reason it reminds you of Guild Wars. You can see Guild Wars. You can remember playing Guild Wars when you hear the song. And then again, I state that, and that is due to the fact just to how amazing of a composer Jeremy Soule is and the work that he did on the soundtracks. So, cool. Guild Wars Eye of the North Overture, and next week we are still going to be in Eye of the North, and then we are going to transverse some of the wonderful Guild Wars 2 soundtrack in a couple weeks, so stay tuned for that.
Nice. So this week's video spotlight is actually a 5-year-old video, and it is the trailer that showcases the different races from Guild Wars 2. So this took place a little bit over 2 years before launch. And Tharos, how about you tell us about that?
Well, it's kind of dated, to say the least. It does, I guess, do a good job of showing all the different races and the main heroes of each race from Destiny's Edge, but you can see its age. That's all I feel like really say.
The only race that seems the most accurate to how they are now is Logan and humans,
which isn't difficult in Finns,
right.
Being human.
Right. I think the one that gets the most change is Sylvari.
Yeah, they look very elvish, as you pointed out in the article. A lot more elvish than they do now, where they kind of more emphasis on the plant-ishness.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's really weird. And Zojia's voice in particular is just way off.
Yeah. Ritlock's
Just
voice
when I
is
say
also
this, because I hate
strange.
Zoja.
Somewhere Felicia Day is weeping out over that voice.
I'm sure she's not. Anyway, so yeah, that's a very interesting trailer. An interesting look back in time compared to how things are now. So this week's weekly community outfit is of Symphora, the Norn thief, and Stegulkin.tumblr.com sent us this outfit in, and it is a very Order of Whispers themed thief. You don't really see Norn thieves very often, I feel like, but this one looks very good, all in Whispers red and gold and black. She's got the Carapace coat, which isn't a Whispers armor set, but with the dye set, it looks spot on.
It does. This is an amazing looking outfit.
Mm-hmm. And she's got, like, the half-face tattoo, so, like, half of her face has, like, looks like she has war paint on. It looks really cool. So, really awesome job. Definitely a good-looking Order of Whispers member. So, Thoros, what did you do this week in-game?
Well, I've still been leveling Fafnir a bit, my Necromancer.
How's that going?
He is now level 25. I did use a couple of the level up tome things because the zones weren't giving me enough. Or the zone I was doing.
Cheater!
Brisbane Wildlands wasn't giving me enough to get to 25, and I didn't want to just grind a place so I could go to a different zone.
Right.
So yeah, I did that. I did the level 20 personal story. Where
How's that for Asura?
Pretty good, actually. I guess I could give a spoiler warning here for people who haven't done it. At least the one I did, I picked Synergetics. I think that's what leads into it. I ended up having to fight a parallel universe version of myself who became Grand High Sovereign of his world. So yeah,
Weird.
Grand High Sovereign Fafnir has a good ring to it, I think.
So is that
Should've
your
made that
goal
your
now?
name.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be short enough to fit, but yeah,
No.
it was pretty good, actually. Quite enjoyed it.
Cool.
Aside from that, we did Ascalonian Catacombs, which I'm sure you'll mention. It was mostly okay. I think generally the story mode version was better, but obviously it would be because story.
Story.
The last boss fight kind of bothered me because of certain mechanics that the game has, which are also in the living story, which I've ranted about before.
The knockdowns.
The continuous knockdowns that you cannot escape from. Yes.
Yes. They are quite annoying. That's true.
Yeah. I just hate that the fact that you can get hit by one thing, and then because they're waiting to hit you again, you just don't have a chance to get out. You can't roll, you can't hit an ability. You're pretty much screwed if you don't happen to have an ability or something that like automatically breaks you out of CC, because you're just stuffed.
Right.
I really hate it.
Yeah, it's definitely not great.
Yes,
But generally, I think it went better than I expected it to. Like it went pretty fast.
I think we wiped once, maybe
Yeah.
on the last boss that might have actually been on. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, we did pretty well generally.
Yeah.
So, Drac, what did you do this week?
I was actually pretty busy this week, so the only thing I did is the aforementioned Ascalonian Catacombs path dungeon crawl that we did.
Yep.
And like you said, it did go pretty good. For me,
I think the final boss was kind of a letdown, though. I
Yeah.
mean, for like a quote-unquote final boss in a dungeon, once we kind of figured out the mechanics, it
He did die
was
really fast.
pretty easy. Yeah, I mean, he went down pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So you would
Yeah, once we
think,
figured out to avoid the,
yeah, I would
Little
think
knockdowns.
things.
the
Yeah.
quote-unquote final boss of a dungeon would be a little harder than that, but
Yeah,
it was fun though.
I agree with Thoros. Like, I think the story mode makes more sense as a dungeon. Because,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
you ramp up in boss difficulty. I feel like the second boss we fought would have made more sense as a final boss.
Yeah, that one I think was probably the toughest one that we fought in that whole path that we did.
Mhm.
So now we should probably do the other paths to see what they're like.
Exactly.
So besides that, what did you do this week besides our little catacomb dungeon crawl that we did?
I've played an embarrassing amount of PvP with Sarah. Like, an embarrassing amount of PvP. Saturday, well, it was, I guess it was Friday in American times because New Zealand. But we did PvP for 5 hours straight.
Oh my god. Are you serious?
Yeah. And so I got a lot of practice on my Guardian PvPing, and we've got it down really well. actually, like, she's on her ranger and I'm on my guardian, and we make a really good team, and I think we won like 7 or 8 matches in a row. It was amazing. So take that, meta. Yeah. I don't use a meta build on my guardian. But yeah, it was just a matter of getting a lot of practice in, figuring out my skill rotations and figuring out how to work with Sarah, and we got it down really, really well. So now we've switched, and now she's trying to PvP with her guardian, and I'm trying to PvP with my ranger, and that's interesting.
To put this into perspective for you, Perkiosaurus in the chat says he doesn't think he's played a total of 5 hours in PvP, much less in one setting.
I've almost hit 400 total PvP matches played. So
oh my god!
I'm that kind of person now. I'm a PvPer.
That is insane.
I mean, like, sometimes I just log in and I just do, like, a match or two quick and, like, every day, and that it adds up, you know? So, and then, yeah, 5 hours straight also probably adds up.
That's insane. That is just insanity. So we will move on into Guild Wars 2 Academy. And the question that was sent in this week was, can I play a light armor-wearing human female without wearing the skimpy armor?
Yeah, this is kind of problematic, especially considering. Well, actually, Drac, you would probably know more about this than anyone else.
I have a problem. I admit it.
The answer is yes. I got this question actually twice on Tumblr and Twitter. It was the same person, but still, I figured I'd answer it on the podcast as well. Basically, yes. And the way you can find out what kind of armor your given gender, race, and armor weight can wear is if you go to the wiki and you just search for like female human light armor, you can actually find they've been working really hard at the Guild Wars 2 wiki lately to provide better pictures of all the armor on all the different races and genders and, you know, armor weights. So now you can find like a whole page of every one of those combinations, and you can see what all the armor looks like on those characters. So it's really easy to find out. Just go to the Guild Wars 2 wiki and just search for whatever it is you're looking for, and you'll be able to see all the different armor sets that you could possibly wear on the character. And you can take a look, see like, oh, well, I don't really like how armor looks on this type of character. I'll use a different one, or any of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, definitely try that out.
Yeah, I think it does become a problem with some of the female armor, mainly, I think, Norns.
Yes.
Because the cultural armor I think we talked about before is a lot of that is kind of skimpy, and it's unfortunate because that tends to be the best looking armor usually.
Yeah, especially oddly the Norn Tier 3 cultural heavy armor is very skimpy and shows off all of the underwear. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing. There is unfortunately a large amount of skimpy armor in this game, but it is possible to find armor that is not skimpy, and some of it looks good. So yeah, donations. We did not get any Patreon mentions this week, but we would love your support. You can help support Guild Wars players by going to our donation page, and you can support the Players Alliance Network, which is the podcast and site network that we're a part of on Patreon. And you can get rewards like getting a mention on the show, or you can even be a guest on the show. So this week, we've got a featured comment from Tapco, who commented on our Necromancer's Really So Good article, and he says, "You don't know what you're talking about. The minions are adorable. Once, when I was still learning the necromantic arts, I used bone minions to act out a wedding. Adorable. The real thing is so much nicer, though, especially without the groom's arms falling off. Smiley face. Oh, and nobody uses blood magic. Thanks, Tapco."
Shots fired.
Yeah. This is because in the article I said I fully expect someone to come into the comments and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, and I also captioned the picture of my build saying, "Say nobody uses blood magic one more time, I dare you," because a lot of people say nobody uses blood magic, but I do. Thanks.
Yeah, still wrong about the means though.
Yeah, he's wrong
Especially the
about
floating
the
rib cage.
Yeah, that's gross. That's disgusting.
I'm in the. I'll just be quiet.
Oh, Drac.
I like my minions.
They're gross. And you should feel bad. Anyway, we also got an email from Ultra, who contributes to the Guild Wars Reporter podcast. And one of you guys want to read it? It's long.
Yeah, I can read it.
All right.
Ultra says, hello, Sithrith. I am Ultra. Been a fan of the show for a few months now. I do a bi-weekly segment on
World be World.
My screen messed up. And PvP called Surviving the Mist over on Guild Wars Reporter podcast. You mentioned you were having trouble with Guardian in PvP and that you were trying to do different builds and avoiding the meta builds. I've got a few things that may help you if you have not considered them and if none has mentioned them yet, or no one has mentioned them yet, sorry. First, you mentioned that you were going for a Condi-style build. While Guardians can do a lot of burning damage, it's really the only condition they can apply, and since it doesn't stack yet, it is the sole condition. It gets cleared very quickly and easily. Not saying that a Condi guard is bad or you won't be successful with it, it's just very difficult to be effective with it. Personally, I think that going with a Condi guard is a huge sacrifice for a little gain. Second, healing. Guardians have a lot of healing that can be activated by either shouts or meditations. If you invest 6 points in the third trait line, you'll get to choose between altruistic healing or monk's focus. AH gives you health for every boon you put on an ally or yourself, and MF gives you health every time you use a meditation. The trait line is currently the healing foundation of the Guardian class. That's why there is a meditation meta and an AH shout meta. Media Zerker guards are popular because you can do a lot of damage and have a lot of healing sustain all at the same time. AH shout guardians are great for teams to have because they bunk points, boon allies, and beat up enemies. Third and last, I know you don't like going with the meta, but it's a good place to start if you're new to a class. Meta builds are popular because they're successful and usually not too difficult to pick up. I encourage people to start there, and once one becomes more comfortable with a class build, they tweak/overhaul/make it your own. Thanks for all the work you do for the community. You and the crew are great. I hope you found this message helpful. Sincerely, Ultra.
Thanks, Ultra. And yeah, he does bring up a good point. As much as I rail against the meta and think it's silly, he does bring up some good points. I definitely recommend to look at the meta. Like, if you go to metabattle.net, you can search for builds based on whatever it is that you're looking to do. There's PvP builds, there's dungeon builds, there's world boss builds. There's all sorts of different builds for different purposes. Each one has different meta builds. I definitely recommend looking, and I always do go and look when I start a new character. I look and take a look at what builds are kind of recommended. And it is a good idea to go and start there if you really don't know, like if you're not sure what you're interested in and what you're trying to get to. I definitely did start off trying to use some meta builds for my Guardian, but I don't know. Every time I try a meta build, it just doesn't click with me. I don't know why. I've tried them with my Necromancer, I've tried them with my Engineer, I've tried them with my Ranger, I've tried them with my Guardian. Just none of them really, I can't get into them. It's just me.
But I think that's kind of what it comes down to is, yeah, if you're at a loss of what to do in terms of build, you can either throw caution to the wind and just make up your own stuff, which some people do and enjoy, or if you're completely at a loss, then go with the meta and see where you go from there. Like, I think where you kind of run into issues is people are running with the meta builds, maybe they don't enjoy it, and like you said, you don't, and they maybe still feel pressured to stick with it because that's the meta build, you're supposed to use that, and maybe your teammates will rage at you if you don't use certain weapons or whatever.
That's where I come in and say it's more important to have fun with whatever profession you're playing than it is to be the most efficient. Because if you're having a terrible time, if you're like miserable playing this profession or whatever this certain way, you're not really going to be helpful to anybody that way because you're just going to be miserable doing it. So just make sure first and foremost you're having fun, whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
If you think meta builds are super fun, go for it.
Yeah. Give it a try. If you don't like it, do something else.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to go outside of the meta to find something that is fun.
It's a foundation. You can build whatever you want on top of it.
Exactly. All right. So I think that is about it for the show, unless you have any opinions on the meta, Drac.
I do not, because I am never, in any game I've played, I am not one that is going to min-max my character and try to get the most out of it. I just play to have fun.
Yep.
I'll tweak it, here and there once I learn, the game and maybe pick something up, but I don't really care. I just play to have fun. And yeah, maybe I'm not the most effective at what I do, but I have fun doing it. And after all, that's the whole point, isn't it? Because it is a game. And I think a lot of people kind of lose that.
Mm-hmm.
They get too caught up in, my build has to be the best, or I have to be the best PvPer, or I have to be the best at taking down this world boss or whatever. And it's like, just have fun. That's what you need to remember.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I definitely agree. And I do really appreciate all the Guardian advice, Ultra. I think I will look into maybe doing something more with altruistic healing. That does sound something a little bit more up my alley. I might try that out. So yeah, again, thanks for the advice and the email. If you would like to contact us and email us, you can do so by emailing us at podcast@guildwarsplayers.com. You can send us questions or topics or advice or, I don't know, telling me that I don't know how to necromancer or whatever it is that you want to say. You can do that by emailing us. You can also go to guildwarsplayers.tumblr.com. We post up podcasts there, the weekly outfits. You can also send us asks through there if you're a Tumblr user. And you can contact us and see our tweets and stuff on Twitter. The Players Alliance Network is @PlayersAlly. Guild Wars Players is @GWPlayers. I'm @Sithrith. Drax at Draculetta_72. And Athelros is @Athelros. And of course, you can always contact us in game. You can find me at Sithrith.6741. Drac is Draculetta.7410. And Athelros is Athelros.3164. The Players Alliance Network has a whole bunch of live shows besides Guild Wars Players. We have on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern is DDO Players. Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern is this show, Guild Wars Players News. And Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern is Lotro Players News. You can find all these live shows by going to guildwarsplayers.com/live. There's a link to our live chat room. And we hope to see you in our live shows. Thank you all very much for listening. And this is Sithrith reminding you to look before you leap.